Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today with me, I have an absolutely fantastic guest. Okay. I was on her podcast. She's a fellow podcaster on IVM. And it was one of the most interesting podcasts that I've ever been on because I was just told this one thing: we need a guest. And I was like, yeah, I'm a guest. I can go for it. And I was told, all I want you to do is I want you to write on a sheet of paper, fill up the entire sheet of paper with something that you're writing. So I was like, all right, so now I have to obviously put my best foot forward. I have to make myself sound like interesting and intellectual. So I thought about what I was writing and I wrote it down. And then when I entered the studio, there I have this giggly lady sitting in front of me. And I handed my sheet of paper, it almost felt like an examination that I was in for. And she took one look at it and put it on the side. And I was like, you're not going to read it? Like I spent like half an hour writing that and she didn't even read it. And we had a fantastic discussion that followed. So what I was told was that the person hosting the podcast is a graphologist. And I had no idea what a graphologist was. I didn't know what to expect. So when I went in, it was like a blank slate. And we had one of the most interesting discussions because I had no idea what to expect. And Aditi Surana, who hosts the Absolutely Right podcast, talks about graphology and understanding it and understanding people using it. Now, I wanted to have her on my show because she looked at my handwriting and told me things that I didn't know about myself. And I found it fascinating. So without much ado, Aditi, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I've been waiting to be on this show. I love your shows. I keep listening to it. And now the fact that it is coming every day, I am fascinated also because I wonder how you're going to create so much of content and teach people so much every day. I know the kind of commitment it takes. So great job, Ashdin. That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Thank you. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And
Okay.
then Saturday, Sunday, we have to give the listeners a break because they're
Okay.
like, I have to recover from this onslaught of Habit Coach
Okay.
podcast. So what's a practical way of using graphology
So
in
back in
life?
the day, people used to use it for selection. So imagine you have five candidates. That's a very famous thing to do.
Hmm.
So people used to get like five people's handwriting and look at it.
Hmm.
I tried initially in my career. I hired graphologists. I trained them, and I thought, okay, we will bring this selection method of
Huh.
analyzing people. Over a period of time, I realized like one, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in like putting those thappas. So it's
Hmm.
not fun for me.
Hmm.
Second way is assessment. So if you're working with a team and if you can assess them and you can decide the training need
Hmm.
of your team, it is easier. Like you can find the most important one and you can go around. So that
Hmm.
really helps.
Hmm.
Uh, One thing people use it for is the criminal, aspect of it. So they want to analyze the criminal's writing and who was the person behind it, what was his personality, what was the thinking behind it. Again, I tried
Hmm.
those aspects. Again, not fun. Like I didn't enjoy it. So I realized I don't like the labeling part of it. What I enjoy the most is the journey. So if I
Okay.
see a person at some point,
Hmm.
then the fact that we can walk with the person and we can move to the next destination and see the transformation,
Hmm.
I'm fascinated by transformations.
Hmm.
So I chose to combine it with coaching,
Hmm.
and coaching became like my way of approaching graphology. So the
Okay.
feedback came, but I would
Hmm.
not give you all the feedback because I'm not analyzing you. I'll
Yeah.
only speak about things that we require to work on.
Hmm.
So I believe you don't have to turn a lotus into a rose by cutting every possible petal, but you
Yeah.
really cut only whatever is required for the person to be at its best. As I
Hmm.
told you, I believe that we already have answers.
Hmm.
So, if you remove the blocks, if you kind of get the issues out of the way, the
Hmm.
person knows how to function.
Right.
Like the water technically knows how to flow. You don't have to teach it. You just have to like remove the obstacles in between.
Correct.
So I started using handwriting as a way to
Hmm.
have deep insights into personalities to coach people.
Hmm.
And that became my interest.
And tell me, how does this work? So you use the handwriting to figure out what are the changes that are particularly needed in the person,
To
right?
begin with.
And then you use the handwriting also to change it, or
Yes.
do you use another form of coaching to change it? How does it work?
So this is like the most difficult part of my work that people
Okay.
genuinely like graphology to begin with. It's like people are like, what is this? Whether it works or not. But then I take this whole journey and make my life even more complicated by telling them, no, no, not only I can analyze you by
Hmm.
your writing,
Hmm.
I'm going to use handwriting to change certain aspects. It's called graphotherapy.
Hmm.
So the coaching format that I was talking about, I created my method of coaching called grapho coaching,
Hmm.
which means I use graphology to analyze you, but more importantly, uh, so this happened, okay? My mother was diagnosed with diabetes part type 2
Hmm.
when I started this work and I
Hmm.
was doing my research initial part. And I came across this concept of graphotherapy. It's not mine, it was already there. I
Hmm.
just took those parts and researched it further.
Hmm.
So my mom, when she was suffering and she was, like exploring, being, initial parts, you're scared, you're reading about diabetes a lot, you're figuring
Yeah,
out what you
yeah,
require to do.
correct.
So in that period, I thought if it is stress related
Hmm.
and if it is about specific anxieties, can we go and change certain strokes and create calmness?
Lovely.
Now, that was a logical approach or inquiry more than a solution. So I
Correct.
created two, three strokes and I said, okay, let's practice this for 6 months because
Hmm.
that was my new part. And I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. And then she is very, very dedicated as a student. So she went on for it, practiced every day, filled books and books of that stroke that I taught her. Within 6 months, a doctor was surprised that her sugar levels were really, really balanced.
Wow.
And we were like shocked. Then we realized, okay, what if we continue this? So for 2 years, she continued the practice and she's never gone back to her medicines since then. So it's
Hmm.
almost 15 years now. So that
Wow.
was my first success or first, exploration on this. And I was mesmerized. I'm like, if this is possible, I really want to explore.
Hmm.
So I went in and made everybody possible around me, my guinea pigs, my college friends, my cousins, my sibling, everybody was like on graphotherapy because I wanted to figure out whether it works or not, including myself.
Correct.
And it
Hmm.
did repetitively. So
Hmm.
as a professional, I started changing certain strokes
Hmm.
without telling people what we are working on.
Okay.
So if you don't know, for example, if somebody is really concerned about failing and it
Hmm.
has fear of failure, and that
Hmm.
is like how it plays, any
Hmm.
fear that
Hmm.
you're subjected to, you really keep thinking
Hmm.
about that one thing all the time.
Hmm.
So I worked with 5 people, and fear of
Hmm.
failure being a common thing, many people had it. So I started working graphotherapy way without telling them that this is what I'm working on. But when I met them
Hmm.
again and again over a period of 5, 6 months, in their conversations, they started telling me that how I said, what has changed? When they described it, they were actually improving fear of failure. And for me, I realized that the graphotherapy can work without involving the cognitive discussion.
Hmm.
So, do I use other techniques? Yes, I have. I got trained by by multiple amazing trainers around the world
Hmm.
to become a coach. So, I've done
Okay.
multiple coaching certifications. I'm also certified to analyze personalities and different psychological models,
Hmm.
including Carl Jung's MBTI model and
Hmm.
16 PS. So, I actually gathered all of that.
Hmm.
That brought graphology more credible way of presenting, because otherwise it looked like I can talk about yourself and this is what it is. But
Correct.
then it became more psychological and with
Hmm.
all these aspects
Hmm.
after the training, I feel.
Wow. Okay. Fascinating. Very dangerous you are, huh? Like you can find out about all the people that are murdered also at one end from the criminal side. And then you can also understand my personality. I love it. Okay. Lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much for joining us on the Habit Coach podcast. It was absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ashdin. I must say that that community that you're building right now, and I also follow your work very closely, so I know the kind of feedback people give and the way they are committed. I feel that's amazing. I wish my work with my community remains the kind of like becomes the kind of work that you're doing. It's amazing. It's
Thank
inspiring
you.
to look at it. Thank you.
We should all be joining forces.
Yes,
Now we should all be doing things together.
of
That's how I
course, of
see it.
course.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.